Hi, welcome. I'm a casual football fan, and today you're going to be looking at Chandler Jones, a very fun topic. So, why Chandler Jones? Oh, like, subscribe, whatever. Why Chandler Jones? Well, mainly because of a negative perception against him, and I understand why. It's mainly because he doesn't really have the stats or really like the personal statistics, mainly sacks. They really have like a high number of those. And I think people kind of overhate him, especially Raiders fans, and saying he's overpaid and washed, which, both could be true, but I still think he's really good against the run and still a viable pass rusher. And also, like, some fans wanted Nick Ngakwe still, which to them, I'm just going to say, watch the tape. And so, yeah, I just have kind of like a cut up of some good Chandler Jones clips, some stuff that's like a bit in between. It's kind of hard to not make it like a highlight reel, which they really want it to be. But yeah, man, and it's kind of tough because like the Raiders paid a lot of money for him, which it's mainly because he could play all three downs. He did play between like 70 to 90% of snaps most of the games. And you can have him just on all three downs. Trust him against the run. Trust him against as a pass rusher. They dropped him in coverage quite a bit too. And so that this guy, Max Crosby, could have an easier time. Like, he's good enough to push the pocket, force a quarterback to Max Crosby, and still be a good run defender, especially setting the edge and forcing the running back to cut back, which, if the running back's cutting back, Crosby's going to be there. So I think he's like I don't want to say good number two, but with all the options you kind of have, I think he works well with Crosby. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of just what you want, especially if we look at the contracts of a lot of the players signed the last 2 years, not just, extensions, but players signing to a different team. His deal doesn't look as bad. There's a lot worse. So, yeah, some good plays. Starting off with like a lot of run plays, running a GY counter, kind of just sidestep the guard and just dives at the running back. But since he's so long and lengthy, when he throws his arms around you, it's gonna end up in a tackle, and that's a good thing too, because he's so lengthy. He knows how to use it. He has like 95 percentile arm length or something crazy, and why that matters, especially when you're making tackles, is that when you wrap your arms around the running back's hips or legs, it's gonna be like wrapped around them. If you have small arms and you try to do that, it might end up in a broken arm tackle. But with Chandler Jones, doesn't happen as much. So here he's sliding inside, has to throw his shoulder against Tooney, running down the line. When the running back commits, he's just able to shed him inside, which is a crazy good play. Oh, and one other thing, like, I think Chandler Jones, I can't remember if it was in a tweet or whatever, but I think he mentioned something about his coaches giving him a good grade on every game, and I kind of agree with it. Like, most of the games, I would say he does his job 90% of the time, which, I mean, that's what you want. So here, you have the wide receiver line up close, which you're kind of expecting like a crackback block. And yeah, Chandler Jones just immediately attacks a wide receiver, forces, I think it's Pierce to cut up, and he just runs right into him. And what's something you want to do as an edge guy is dominate tight ends. Chandler Jones is going to do that. That's one thing I like about him. Against the run, against number 80, Hands inside of him, just pushes him back, gains penetration, and follows where the running back's going. Oh, so here he's yeah. Oof, hopefully my dog's not too loud. But yeah, changing his alignment, setting the edge. Come on. Hey, come down. That's a shame. But yeah, so the run doesn't succeed because of Crosby, which, yeah, kind of a rare thing to happen, but sets the edge, forces the cutback. There's almost like no room here to just boom, extend, make them slow down, and yeah, force the cutback. Then one more against the run, just boom, shock them. Running back commits, shed inside or shed outside. And that's kind of what he does like most run reps. Like when he's the play side guy, he's gonna make an impact. On the backside, he can make an impact, especially when he's like running down the line, chasing after from behind, just throwing his long arms, making a tackle, which he can do. But he's not really like the same player as Max Crosby, but it's still pretty good. Oh yeah, he's the one good thing about Chandler Jones is that he could beat up on bad tackles. So we have Rashawn Slater here. He's gonna long arm and just club the outside hand. He would have gotten more pressure if, you know, Blau Nichols didn't win easily too, forcing the check down. Against Justin Herbert, any pressure, if it's not a sack or a QB hit, kind of doesn't matter. But that's the type of quarterback you're going up against. Oops. So here we go again. Just double swipe, get him to shoot his hands, and rip underneath. He's not what he used to be. Like his legs, his lower body's a bit more stiff. When he has to flip his hips at the top of the pass rush, it's not what it used to be. His bends, like you can kind of see his bend here. It's fine, but when he tries to bend this low, he kind of ends up on the ground. So he doesn't have the bend or the hips he used to have. But man, he still has his length and his he still has good speed. Yeah, so just getting inside his chest, just boom. Speed and power. Hey, come here. Darn Poochie. But yeah, forcing him to anchor down, and he anchors down almost on Herbert's foot. But same thing, it's Herbert, so it's kind of a robot. And then here, long arm and forklift, just driving him back. See what kind of pressure got to him. I mean, he could have like stepped up, but yeah, it would have been hard to step up because of Jones. So all his pass rush is just enough to make him throw it now. And then, yeah, beating bad tackles. Orlando Brown's one of them. This one's not really like a true win, and mainly because Mahomes is forced out the pocket anyways. But yeah, so chop. Looks like he tries a club or swipe. But yeah, so chop, get him to shoot his hands. Tries a club, it doesn't. Goes around the pocket. It's just enough to get Mahomes off platform, which can be dangerous with. And now here, hitting with the double swipe and just gets around the edge. And yeah, like Orlando Brown's not that good. Just punches and just stops his feet. Yeah. Jones just gets a hand on him, but forces him to make the throw. And as I was saying with his arm length, how he could just make a bunch of tackles players can't. It's hard against Mahomes. it's Mahomes. But yeah, so double swipe, boom. Not a bad not a bad job getting around the edge, but same thing. His hips aren't pointed at Mahomes, so when he does dive, he just misses him, and that's kind of like part of the thing. Like, not what he used to be, but could still be an effective pass rusher. Could still get pressure. And yeah, so this one's kind of just more fakes a double swipe, get him to shoot his hands, and just get underneath. It's kind of hard to do power moves against Orlando Brown because of how big he is. What makes him get around the edge is tuning, helping him out. He's probably just like, man, Orlando Brown's getting beat every rep. Let me help him out. Boom. It pushes him around the edge, and yeah, it gets pressure on him. I think he trips him up too. Jeez. Yeah, here. Just enough to trip him up. And then, oh yeah, in this game, it was kind of crazy because, like, wherever Kelsey was, if it was Crosby or Jones, they would go out and press him on the line. So yeah, Crosby's pressing him and then gets to his rush. So he's still able to chase Mahomes down. And same thing here. He's out here pressing him. But back to Chandler Jones. He's doing a jab step, long arm. Tries a forklift, but gets held. Like, some of the stuff you kind of have to assume. Like, if you can't get the forklift up, it means that Brown's probably like holding into his jersey, which, you know, it's not a holding call or not like a holding penalty. As an offensive player, it's your job to hold him. It's your job as a defensive player to make sure they don't hold you. So yeah, he just doing the long arm forklift. When he feels him grabbing inside his jersey, he just pulls him down. Happens pretty quick too. Long arm, boom. Tries the forklift and just pull him in. Gets his arm out. And I think like Mahomes, like, he's looking this way. Probably sees this and is like, oh yeah, he's gonna get beat. Gotta throw it now. And yeah, he kind of just made Orlando Brown's life miserable. Kind of sucks that he's on the Bengals now. Missed him on the Chiefs, but I digress. So yeah, Chandler Jones faking the chop, trying to club the outside arm and rip underneath. And when you're not going up against Orlando Brown and you're going up against a tackle that's worth a dang, you're gonna get shut down. Like, it's tough beating Tunsil. This was probably his worst game, or one of his worst games. It wasn't even like a bad game. It's just as a pass rusher, it was almost nothing. This was his best rep. Even then, just boom, fake the chop, just get into like a bull rush, get him to quarterback depth, and shed inside. But Tunsil just does a good job of just staying on him. Like, he anchors down here and he tries to twist and push Jones' momentum away from the quarterback. Mills could have escaped if I guess it was Crosby doesn't get to him. But yeah, there wasn't a ton of like good pass rush reps, which, yeah, this game against whoever the backup tackle is was also pretty good. So here he has to go a bit more wide, take a wider pass rushing lane because they're blitzing in the B gap, forcing the running back to make a decision. And so he has to win on the outside, which he does a double swipe rip. And yeah, same issue is there, flipping his hips at the top of the pass rush here. After you hit your move, hit your rip, that's when you flip your hips, and it's just kind of slow. Oh yeah, getting a tight end to block him. And that's the one good thing too, is because of how long and how like physical he plays. Putting a tight end, like if a team's putting a tight end on you as an edge guy, That's disrespectful. Whether it's against the run, against the pass, you gotta beat him. I think this is Tomlinson. I know 87's a good run blocker and a good blocker, but still, it's, yeah. Just get his hands off of you. Just double swipe and rips. Now what he messes up here is like he's chasing Wilson's like outside hip instead of his inside hip. So he just misses him when he steps up. Still ends up with the sack, but you know, gets the pressure, forces him up. And yeah, really good against bad tackles. Now we have Charles Cross here. He's a rookie. So yeah, just boom, get in his chest, get in the quarterback depth, and try to shed inside. Geno is a good quarterback, so sees that, instead of stepping up, steps back, makes his throw, but yeah, not there. And so here, just is a chop club rip, and Jones is still good at just like linking a bunch of moves together. This forces Geno to have to step up and run. Boom. Yeah, here he does a better job of flipping his hips. It's still not perfect because he's so long. He does like when he does win around the edge, it's so hard for him just to stop and just get inside. Here he gets a hand on Geno. This time just yeah, double swipe and rip, and just gets a hand on the shoulder pass, just enough to stop him. And this is what you like to see. So in the first half of the season compared to the second, there's kind of a stigma that he played better in the second half. I think part of it is him understanding he's not what he used to be. So he kind of stops trying to win around the edge as much. Now he's doing more power stuff, doing more, more long arms, more bull rushes, speed of power, all that type of stuff. Winning with more counter moves, pushing the quarterback depth, ripping inside, clubbing inside, all that type of stuff. And he's just winning, trying to win less on the edge more when he gets two-way goes, or, just stuff like that. And I think part of it is that like he isn't the player he used to be, coming from a couple of like major leg injuries. And here's a good example of that. It's like, all right, beat you on the outside a couple times, giving me a square shoulder, boom, just bull rush. Oh, he also fakes the chop, which he always does, and just boom, get underneath them. Push him like almost right to Geno. When Cross anchors down, like he's almost where the quarterback is, and Crosby, pats the ball. Here, he does it like a couple plays later, and Cross is expecting it. He's kind of inviting the bull, but he anchors down immediately. That was a good job there. And this is against the backup left tackle. But yeah, so boom, jab step, chop, tries to do a club and rip at the top. Just does enough to force Herbert outside. And yeah, this is a good play. Just boom, jab step, boom. Hey, come down. Darn Poochie. But pushes him to quarterback depth, sheds inside, gets a sack. And yeah, like when you watch most pass rushers, when they get sacks, it's usually against scrubs. It happens. And the tough thing about Chandler Jones that he's always, they play sides. So Crosby's always on the right tackle side. Chandler Jones is always against the left tackle, and usually you're going to get harder matchups. But the reason why some teams do that is because you want your best pass rusher against a better matchup, which in football is generally the right tackle, who's an easier matchup to go against. And so it's kind of why Chandler Jones doesn't really have the numbers, because he does have a harder matchup and harder just responsibility. He, when I was watching Cardinals highlights of him, he did line up against the left tackles a lot too. So that was kind of interesting. I think that's why, another reason why they signed him, like you already know he could play this role. It's kind of what he's been playing. it's also why like a lot of his highlights were against like Seahawks or uh, like just bad tackles. Like Seahawks almost never had a good left tackle. Yeah, this was not really like a win, I would say. Just yeah, fakes a chop, just boom, get underneath them. Extends his arm so that when Herbert gets pushed out the pocket, he could just shed it. Yeah, double swipe rip. Just enough to force Herbert to make a throw. Yeah. This game against Trent Brown, this was probably like one of his harder games in the second half of the season. Mainly because it's like you have a lengthy, tall, just mammoth of a man. But I mean, Jones had a pretty solid game against him. Just boom. Yeah, he's almost like a push and pull here. And just boom, push, pull, and just rip underneath. Kind of wonder if he wanted to bull rush here. I mean, he has to throw like it pushes hips through him, get a long extension just to move him like a couple of steps. Like it's hard to go through Trent Brown, but he does one play. Oops. Does here. Just kind of does like a hezzy step and just boom, get underneath them, extend your arms. Against Mac Jones, you know, he's going to kind of falter under pressure. He does there. And yeah, this is the last play I'm going to show, but if you're getting beat on a fake spin move by Chandler Jones in the year 2022, yeah, Jones gets killed here. I don't know how you let Chandler Jones beat you like that, but it's kind of hard not to make it like a highlight, make this a highlight tape. But yeah, I mean, Chandler Jones, still a viable guy. And I think next season's going to go into it knowing that he's not the same player he is. Like, he's kind of adjusting to it, which is a tough thing for any player to know that, like, you know, had some leg injuries, torn ACLs. You can't move the same, can't bend the same, flip your hips the same. Got to change the way you play. And he did adjust. So that's always a good sign. And heading to next season, like, I think it's safe to expect him to play like he did the second half of the season. And getting Tyree Wilson is going to be interesting because now he doesn't have to play. Some games he played like 90% of the snaps. Doesn't have to do that anymore. Could just play like a good 70% of snaps maybe. And even then, like, the Raiders would have 3 DNs. We'll have Cleveland Farrell on the inside. We'll have Chandler Jones on the inside. Could do that with Tyree Wilson. Just line him up over guards. And it's kind of hard not to be excited for Jones. Or maybe not excited, but just expect him to be better from game 1. Already have a guy that looks like could be his replacement too. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. So if you're here this long, hope you enjoy this Chandler Jones breakdown and whatnot. And yeah, thank you for watching and see you next time. Peace. Bye-bye.